We have a new squatter case in Washington, D.C. is making the news similar to the last case. The usual suspects, you'll see it here.
Confrontation between a D.C. landlord and a bat-wielding tenant. Tonight, the I-Team's John Barr has more on this situation and how it's becoming all too common in the district.
Tenants not paying rent, denying access to the property, and then landlords left at their wits' end. And John is here live in studio now with more on this, Sean.
Yeah, we first told you about this dispute between the tenant and landlord back in September. Spoiler
The usual suspects, of course.
alert, it's still going on. This one case, according to landlord Jeffrey Levine, has involved 14 different city agencies, more than 70 court appearances,
Jesus Christ.
more than 20 calls to police, more than 100 building code violations. All of that for one 225 square foot apartment on Capitol Hill.
Wow.
And a tenant who won't pay rent and will not leave. This row home in Capitol Hill sits on a relatively quiet street.
Back up!
But inside, the dispute over the basement apartment is anything but peaceful.
You just hit my wife. You do that again?
Back up!
One tenant blocked 93 inspections.
You're not letting me in for the inspection?
One tenant kept inspectors waiting as long as 6 hours.
Get the out!
I have not been able to renovate or sell my building. I am basically stuck.
That was owner Jeffrey Levine earlier this month, pleading his case to D.C. council members, explaining how Michelle Watley, the only tenant in a 7-unit building, not only hasn't paid rent since July 2023, but continues to report violations to city inspectors.
Oh, we'll come within arm's length. Let's defend ourselves.
Only to then deny them and Levine access to the apartment to make repairs.
I was there with Roto-Rooter to fix the toilet that she clogged.
There should be a common refrain for those of you that have been watching this channel.
Miss Watley, I'm here with the plumber. This is the third and final attempt. Are you letting me in or are you not going to let me in?
She was in the building, in the unit, and would not let the Roto-Rooter guy in.
Who is the plumber?
Excuse me? Who's the plumber? He's a plumber from Roto-Rooter.
By my calculation, I have over 200 denial of entries. However, I have 93 that I obtained through FOIA that she actually emailed the district, you cannot come in, the Department of Buildings. And guess what? They didn't go in.
A Department of Buildings spokesperson tells 7 News DOB can confirm that on multiple occasions, inspectors failed to gain access to 105 6th Street Northeast after an inspection was scheduled. DOB didn't give us a specific number of times that happened, but says agency records point to a range of between 10 and 70.
Good morning, Chairperson Mendelson, fellow council members and staff.
We wanted to ask Keith Parsons, the Strategic Enforcement Administrator for the Department of Buildings, why inspectors would tolerate being denied access so often. Parsons wouldn't talk to us, but he explained it this way to the D.C. Council.
If someone does not let us in, then we can't go in.
And so what you're hearing is just a typical way that tenants refuse entry to landlords and the inspectors. No inspections, they can't. It's hard to evict them, and that's what you're seeing here.
I don't think this is satisfactory that the tenant could deny you access, and that's the end of it. There's got to be a solution.
The Department of Buildings tells 7 News, overall, there are currently 42 open violations at Levine's building, totaling more than $40,000 in fines.
A lot of these fines are probably due to him not being able to mitigate these problems because of this one tenant.
Levine says he can't fix those violations unless Watley opens the door.
It's the playbook. It's the playbook to delay paying rent or to avoid paying rent.
Rich Bianco has been a real estate attorney in the district for 25 years.
In order to get a business license, you need to have an inspection by the Department of Buildings. So by denying the Department of Buildings access to do a business licensing inspection, tenants can effectively delay landlord's ability to get into court.
Bianco says there may be a way out for Levine. The courts, he explains, can give an exception to landlords who are unable to gain access to their properties because of an uncooperative tenant.
And the exception is not perfect, but it is a lifeline for folks that find themselves in the situation that this particular housing provider finds himself in.
Remember, the last time we saw Michelle Whatley was in this video confrontation with Levine and his wife. A judge found Whatley was the aggressor during this heated argument in a common hallway where Levine, as the landlord, had every right to be. In her most recent lawsuit, Whatley alleged Levine has systematically failed to maintain the property and make necessary repairs, adding, "This sustained negligence appears to be a deliberate strategy to force plaintiff to vacate." Levine, meantime, says Whatley has cost him millions in losses, not to mention more than 2 years of unpaid rent.
I don't know why DC is not doing anything about it, and I don't know how this ends. But if I'm on the right side of the ground, which I am now, I won't stop, because what's happened to me could happen to anybody in DC.
Now the department...
And what's happening to him does happen to quite a few people in DC, and this is a real big risk of business here. You're starting to see some patterns. I don't have to mention them. You see who the tenants that are committing these acts. You see this lady was in a basement apartment. The other lady had the full house. These are big problems that arise when you rent to people like that and you give them a full place where you cannot enter. They can more or less prevent you from entering, and you'll rack up a bunch of fines for any violations there. So if I were going to offer someone a solution to this, well, part of it is I wouldn't rent to people like that. I definitely wouldn't rent to people like that in a full apartment. Maybe you take a chance on renting a room or something like that to them. But definitely not a full place where you don't have access pretty much at all times. That's why I take the approach of renting rooms. I think it's a lot safer than renting out a full apartment or a house to someone. And so I think in this issue and in the last issue, that was the crux of the issue there, that they had rented the entire place to the person, couldn't have access to their unit, and all the problems that came from that.
Department of Buildings says if inspectors are repeatedly denied entry, it could use what's called an administrative search warrant to gain entry, but a spokesperson tells me those warrants only apply when conditions are considered dangerous, and that does not appear to be the case here. As for Ms. Whatley, she finally agreed to an interview last week and then backed out at the last minute. We'll keep asking. We'll also keep an eye on this case.
These people are making themselves too much of a rental risk with the laws so much in their favor, and with no consequences if they don't pay you. The best thing for landlords to do is avoid these people to the best of your ability within the law. Once again, I am John Galt, the Urban Landlord.